today is dill relish. So the first thing that I'm doing is I'm prepping all of my cucumbers. They need to be diced. I'm using the Ball Blue book, the thin one, that is on page 53, the dill relish recipe. And that recipe makes 7 pints. It calls for 8 pounds of cucumbers. So right now I've just made a large amount of diced up cucumbers, and what I'm doing is I'm putting them in my food processor and I'm putting them on the pulse to just dice them, or really it's finely chopping, almost like making coleslaw. So let me show you how it's looking so far. So it's almost like cutting it up to look like coleslaw, because for relish you want it chopped up very fine, and that's being done in the food processor. I'm going to get all of those taken care of and I'll be back. I'm going to continue doing this until I have all of the cucumbers cut up. I want them all chopped up finely without leaving any large pieces in there. There's still a couple. But trying not to make puree. Good. So now I'm going to put the onions in there and chop those up more fine than what I had already chopped up by hand. For this amount of cucumbers, I'm using 1 pound of onions. So this recipe calls for 8 pounds of cucumbers, a half a cup of salt. They recommend ball salt, but salt, pickling salt, kosher salt. 2 teaspoons of turmeric, 1 quart of water, 1 pound of yellow onions, a half a cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of dill seed, 1 quart of white wine vinegar. I just use white vinegar. And the pickle crisp if you so desire. So what you do first is you wash your cucumbers and you drain them, of course. You chop them up in a food processor and grind them to small pieces. I found that using the pulse position on the food processor does well. Then you're going to put the chopped cucumbers in a bowl. I put the onions in with the cucumbers, but the directions call for just putting the cucumbers in there and sprinkling it with the salt and the turmeric. And then you pour the water over and let it stand in the bowl for 2 hours. But I like to put the onions in there as well. Doesn't make a difference one way or the other, but that's the way I'm going to do it. This recipe calls for a half a cup of salt. I'm going to use my kosher salt, and I'm going to use a 1/4 cup because that's what's easy to get in the jar. I'm going to put 2 of these in there. That doesn't have to be specifically measured. I was very close to it being a rounded scoop. And then it calls for 2 teaspoons of turmeric. This is just to soak and get a brine. Now, if I was measuring this to make a cake or something, I would be more precise. I need to add 1 quart of water over the top of this, and I'll get it blended in. It's going to change the color to a yellowish color because of the turmeric. So I just mix it up to make sure that it's all colored well. And the salt and the turmeric is blended really well. I'm going to cover this with just a pan and put it aside. I have my timer set. Now I can move on to other things while I'm waiting on that. Okay, that 2 hours is done, and now I'm ready to add the ingredients into my pot. I had to drain all of the cucumber, the solution, the brine off, and rinse several times. It's important to rinse that out because it'll be just super potent. And ask me how I know, because of experience. It is super potent if you don't get all of that brine rinsed off. Drain, rinse, drain, rinse, however many times until that yellow from the turmeric is no longer visible. That's how you know that it is rinsed crystal clear. So I've got that drained, and now I'm going to put the rest of the ingredients in here and begin the boiling process. So we're going to do 2 tablespoons of dill seed, a 1/3 cup of sugar, and 1 quart or 4 cups of white vinegar. I'm going to put this on the stove and bring it to a boil, and then turn it down and simmer for 10 minutes. Okay, my mixture has boiled and it's ready to go into the jars. I've already heated my jars, and I'm going to go ahead and put them in, fill them up, and use my funnel. It calls for a 1/2 inch head space, which is about to this middle ring right here. That one's a little full. Remove the air bubbles. Little paper towel with some vinegar and clean the rims. Now I'm going to put the lids and the rings on. The rings go on finger tight. Now these are ready to go back in the water. Okay, they are all in the pot. The recipe calls for it making 7 pints, but I'm using half-pint jars, and I was able to get 12 out of the recipe. I'm going to bring this to a full boil, and once it is at a full boil, I will process for 15 minutes. Okay, my time is up, and I'm going to just move this off of the burner and let it sit for just a few minutes. And then I will take the jars out. Well, everything is done, and it's time to take all of the jars out of the pot, and I'm going to put them on the counter. So there we have it, 12 half-pint jars of dill relish. Now it's best to let them sit for 24 hours on the counter, not in a direct draft or in front of a fan. I actually do have a fan that I have turned off so that these things can cool down naturally, and then you will test your lids to see if they are all sealed. They've been popping for a while. So this concludes this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you will hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel. Y'all have a great day. Bye.